Well, as I always say, Mondays are the most boring days starting the week, but today we intend to keep your Mondays fun and exciting with some good ass reviews from various promotions. Now, the first two we're going to do, they're coming in from WrestleMania week. The first one is the collaboration between Wrestling Revolver and House of Glory in Philadelphia that took place on April 5th. And then we move on with a very interesting collaboration with, of course, with Expect the Unexpected Wrestling versus Dragon Gate. So we're going to see Dragon Gate talent taking on the guys from ETU talent. And then we move on. As you know, we already started Monday. In Japan, we have started Monday Magic with some interesting matches. Amongst them is a number one, no, a title match for the GHC Junior Heavyweight Tag Team titles. The members of GOG, Tadasuke and Yohei, they defended against Yuko Matsumoto and Isami Kodaka. So we'll see how that turns out. And then we cap it up with some news updates to tell you what's been going on in the world of pro wrestling, such as what events is happening, who's booked, what matches are set, and of course some developments that's been happening in the world of pro wrestling that we need to talk about. So let's get ready for another episode of Deleted Wrestle Zone.
Are you ready? Get up, get up! 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 Get up, get up!
Welcome everybody to Deleted Wrestle Zone, all things that is pro wrestling with AEW, NXT, New Japan Pro Wrestling, TNA, National Wrestling Alliance, various promotions, wrestlers, matches, and championships. I am your host, J Rod here. So, if you are new to the channel, welcome. This is a channel where we do a lot of pro wrestling reviews from various promotions, not only here in the United States, but also in Japan, Mexico, Canada, Europe, the UK, anywhere in the world of pro wrestling is not as big, but it continues to grow. We also do discussion videos, talk about various topics like the wrestlers themselves, the promotions, factions, storylines, whatever we want to talk about. We also do more news updates. If I'm unable to put it on this episode, I can put it on a separate video by itself. We also do real timing news updates to keep you guys on alert if something has happened in the world of pro wrestling that needs to be addressed. We also do the Unagi Sayaka Watch and various other cool things as well. So if you like what you see, please subscribe to us. So click on that subscribe button. You'll be getting a lot of daily reviews and other cool stuff as well on this channel. But if you like this episode, please give us a like on the like button or a nice comment in the description down below. Now, all introductions are set aside, so I believe it's time to get the show on the road. Our very first review is coming from Wrestling Revolver and House of Glory. Okay, our first review is Wrestling Revolver and House of Glory collaborating with each other. It's more like the House of Glory versus Revolver Wrestling. Basically, they're facing off. Our first match, we have the two top champions in both respected companies. Of course, Mike Santana, who represents House of Glory, the current House of Glory heavyweight champion. He faced against Revolver's champion, Alex Shelley. Now, you would think this match was going to be a banger. It kind of did, but unfortunately, there was a moment where Mike Santana accidentally knocked out the ref, and he won by applying a somewhat of a lariat and then picked up the win. However, the ref that was knocked down in the match was in fact a representative of Wrestling Revolver, but the House of Glory ref decided to make a choice to help out, tried to step in as possible to continue on the match, but unfortunately the Revolver title remained with Alex Shelley, which of course people would say is a load of horse crap. But Veda Scott looked into it herself, saying that there was a lot of politicking going on in this, so I don't blame them. But we'll see what happens in the future. Our next match, we have a four-way match for the House of Glory tag team titles. We have Grizzled Young Vets versus the current champions. Main event versus Red, consisting of Alex Colon and RSP, versus the Rascals. Now, of course, this is going to be a very interesting matchup because we know that these two teams, all these teams will love nothing more to win the match. Now, technically, the main event doesn't have to be pinned or submitted, but man, this match was out of control and crazy. But the real question is, how will the main event try to deal with it? Well, as lively as possible. But however, it was the the grand finale by the main event onto Alex Colon that allowed the main event to retain the belt. However, as soon as the match was over, for some odd reason, that piece of garbage Charles Mason showed up and attacked. Now, Jay Lyons, I have to say, I commend him to try to stick up for, against Charles Mason, but that wasn't enough. And once again, Charles Mason continues with his despicable ways by removing Jay Lyons' mask. Sooner or later, someone's going to put him in the ground and he's going to stay down. Now, our next match, this is for the House of Glory Crown Jewel title. One called Manders takes on Carlos Ramirez, known as La Sombra. So basically, this was going to be a Haas fight. So there was no way this match was going to be more. So basically, we were going to see someone has to fall, but apparently, as you all know, Carlos Ramirez used to be a flunky of Charles Mason, so he used one of his tricks by low blowing Manders and then applying a driver to retain the belt. So he must have remembered certain tricks that he learned for that piece of garbage Mason, but in the end, he just walked away with the belt. Our next match, well, you can say this is a hunt for a white whale. Mike Bailey, who has never beaten Masha Slamovich. Now, you would think third time is a charm. I mean, we've seen these type of matches in the past where somehow these, if you can't win the third time, the second time, the third may be a possibility. I mean, Bailey could have done everything possible, but unfortunately, that wasn't the case in this one because it was Masha Slamovich who walked away when she applied a pile driver, but at the apron, which is the most hardest part of the ring. Now, those who aren't familiarized of this, the apron of the ring is the most hardest part of the ring itself. It hurts like hell. If you don't believe me, ask your local wrestler in your general area and ask them that question because I know people here in San Diego that actually been through that. So yes, and that allowed for, of course, Masha Slamovich to pick up the win. So that means Mike Bailey has to go back to the drawing board, see what he did wrong, and hopefully for the best. Now, our next match, we have a Philly street fight between Charles Mason, which I wish he just disappeared, takes on Steve Macklin. I think many people were rooting for Macklin because, of course, um, Charles Mason is a piece of garbage. He claims that he is politically correct, that he knows what he's talking about, that money is everything, and he doesn't care what people think. However, um, there was a moment when Killer Kelly gets involved, and she takes the bag that he uses to suffocate his victims. However, he was able to use that again, but unlike many other people that were not smart enough to put a hole into the bag, Macklin did that, and it backfired on Mason. And then, of course, Macklin did the KIA, and 1, 2, 3 is over. So good night, Mason. Never get up again. Now, our next match is the Revolver Remix title. We have Gringo Loco. He takes on Casey Navarro, Nolo Kitano, Raheem Royal, Aglin Block, all the way from France, and Ace Austin. However, another name was added to the mix, and that is the young goat, Myron Reed. Now, you know these type of matches, someone is going to walk out. Now, technically, Gringo Loco doesn't have to be pinned or submitted in this match, which was obvious. But it was Gringo Loco once again who picked up the win when he applied the base bomb onto Angle Block, and just like that, he retained it. So 1, 2, 3, he picks up the W. Now, our main event is for the TNA X Division title. We have the amazing Red, one of my favorite wrestlers, who's also dubbed as the East Coast Rey Mysterio, takes on Mustafa Ali. So originally this was supposed to be a non-title match, but requested, let's make this match for the TNA X Division title. Now it's no secret, if those who have been big TNA fans, you know Red used to be a former X Division champion himself, and that was pretty cool. However, you would have assumed that Red would have picked up a good win, but Mustafa Ali got away with it by cutting quarters again, low blowing Red, and then doing a 450, retaining the belt. So hopefully that thing is going to bite him in the ass one day when it gets back to him. So we'll see what happens until then. But for right now, we're done with this event. Let's move on with ETU versus Dragon Gate. Okay, ETU, unexpected. This is a promotion that I did not know existed, but however, the name sounded familiar. They face off against Dragon Gate. Now, ETU, as you know, is run by Danny DeMonto, the same guy who runs ICW No Holds Bars. I did not know he runs two promotions, but it's great. But it makes sense why this promotion decided to do a little collaboration with them. I do remember members of the faction known as Natural Vibes, consisting of KZ and Big Shiz, or whatever his name is, had these tag team titles. It would make sense why, but makes perfect sense. So this event took place also in Philadelphia on the 6th of April. Let's begin with our first match, which is a four-corner survival match. We have Braden Toon representing ETU versus La Estrella, who represents Dragon Gate. Also representing Dragon Gate, Ho Ho Loon versus, of course, representing ETU, Yoya. The match was pretty great. I mean, of course, it's every man for themselves. There's no like team and as you know, I mean, it's a four-way, but you got two representatives from two different promotions, and I wasn't too sure how this was going to go. But however, it was Ho Ho Lu who picked up the win by applying the whole roll onto Estrella and to pick up the W. Now our next match is a number one contendership for the ETU key to the East title. We have KZ versus Brandon Kirk. Um, I have to say this was a very interesting matchup. I mean, KZ, who has won a championship from this promotion once before, probably would love to have one himself, but he has to face against someone who we all know who won the ICW American Deathmatch title, and possibly a few others. But it was, of course, Brandon Kirk with the Psycho Driver onto KZ to pick up the win. Now, our next match, we have representing Dragon Gate, Shun Skywalker taking on representing ETU, Alec Price. Of course, Shun Skywalker, he's very cocky, very manipulative. He likes to play mind games. I'm sure Alec Price did everything in his power to avoid it, but it's just too much. I mean, Shun Skywalker, he's a master manipulator, but he was able to pick up the win when he applied a standing double knee moonsault, and just like that, he picked up the W. Our next match, this is for the IWTV Independent Wrestling Tag Team titles. Now, this is part of the network known as IWTV, which is Independent Wrestling Television. We have representing Dragon, but here's the interesting part: it's Dragon Gate rules, much like they are similar to the Lucha Libre rules. You don't need to tag in someone; the person can roll out, and the next person tags in, and that's a very unique concept. People just think that what the hell is a Dragon Gate's rule? It's the same rules as Lucha Libre's rules. We have Gold Class consisting of Kota Minoura, and then of course Ben K. They take on Miracle Generation, Kylon King, and Dustin Waller. I thought this match was pretty good. I thought it was fantastic. But the real question is, could Gold Class pick up the win? Obviously, that they did not because it was a pinfall uh, by Walker onto Kota Minoura, and just like that, they picked up the W. Our next match is the ETU Key to the East Championship. We have representing Dragon Gate Dragon Kid, who is a long-standing protege of Ultimo Dragon. He faces the current champion Marcus Mathers. I thought this match was going to be a banger, and it did. I mean, Marcus Mathers facing a veteran, a guy who's been at the top, but it was, of course, Marcus Mathers with the 450 splash. 1, 2, 3. It was over. Now, our next match, we have Danny Namato taking on Ultimo Dragon. That's right, guys. The man, the myth, the legend, Dragon. I have to say, it was a fantastic match. I mean, D'Amato, he was using the mic way, way too much, but that gave enough time for Ultimo Dragon to pick up the win when he applied the infamous, of course, La Casita was created by Negro Casas, and just like that, it was over. So Ultimo walked away with the W. Now, our main event, we have Mike Santana versus Dragon Gate's Yamato. I thought this match was going to be crazy. I mean, there was a lot of back and forth, kicking out, submission, that sort of thing. I wasn't too sure how this was going to end, but however, it was, of course, an Argentine bomb by Mike Santana in order to pick up the win. So this means in this particular event, ETU won the day. So hopefully we see them again next year, but we'll just gotta wait and see what happens. But for right now, I think we move on with our next and final review, Pro Wrestling Noah. Okay, so we're now in the second episode of the second season of Monday Magic by Pro Wrestling Noah. It opened up with Yu Owada taking on Jake Lee. Now, watching this match, I know this is not going to be an easy peasy for Yu Owada, for the young boy. I had a suspicion this was going to end with Jake Lee, and he did, and he finished him off when he applied with the infamous Boston Crab, and just like that, he won. Of course, Jake Lee just left because he has no business being there around, since he is still possibly upset he could not beat Hijo de Dr. Wagner Jr. for the GHC heavyweight title. Our next match, we have a very interesting tag team match. We have Junta Miyawaki. He teams up with Daiki Inaba. They take on Hayata and Shuhei Taniguchi. A very interesting pairing. Now, normally Hayata would team up with Eita all the time, but for some odd reason, he ended up with Taniguchi from Real. I thought it was a very interesting thing to watch. But Hayata actually picked up the win with the Tiger driver onto what's his name, onto Miyawaki, and walked away with the W. Now, before we jump into our next match, we did see a surprise visit from members of GLG, specifically our current GHC heavyweight tag champions, and one of them is in fact the national champion. We're talking about Jack Morris and Anthony Green. As you know, GLG has been one of the most popular and dominant factions within Noah. But of course, when they had their back turns, Hayata low blowed Jack Morris out of nowhere. I don't think anybody expected. But if I was Jack Morris, I would try to get some payback from that. But if he don't, then he will get you again. Now, our next match, we have Miyuki taking on the Great Sakuya. Now, these two have been going at it since late last year. When Sakuya made her presence known, they've been going back and forth. But unfortunately, Sakuya decided to disregard by the rules. She decided to miss Miyuki, and it resulted of her being disqualified. And of course, her BFF Nozaki, they decided to give a beatdown onto Takase. But however, out of nowhere, the ace of Marvelous, Takumi Iroha, showed up to give a helping hand, and I wouldn't be surprised if those two will meet each other at some point. But we just gotta wait and see when that day happens. Now, moving on, we have a bit of a four-way match. We have Alejandro versus Alpha Wolf versus Ninja Mac versus our current GHC Junior Heavyweight Champion, Daga. Now, this match would have gone in favor of Daga since he is the current GHC Junior Heavyweight Champion, but it did not. Um, um, of course, once again, Daga being disrespectful, ripping off Alejandro's mask, and then of course, Alpha applied a driver onto Ninja Mac, and it resulted of him pick up the win. However, at post match, Alpha took the GHC Hardcore title that belongs to Ninja Mac. I don't know if he has any plans to challenge for the belt, but if I was him, I would say make the challenge. So I will see where that leads us from there. Our next match we have, of course, is Masa Kiyomiya, Rahe Oiwa, Kaito Kiyomiya. They take on the return of Katsunari Murakami, Takeshi Sugiura, and then, of course, Iko the Dr. Wagner Jr. I thought the match was pretty good. However, it told more of the story on this one, as you know, with Kiyomiya, who's trying to be the main character of Noah. It did work for him when there was a Shining Wizard applied on Sugiura, and just like that, they won. So, but however, Kenoh decided to agitate more of Kiyomiya. Now, some of you may question, why is he agitating him? Simple. Kenoh has always been very opinionated towards Kiyomiya, calling him he's a fake wrestler. He is the reason guys like him can't go to the top, all of that. Many years ago, when Pro Wrestling Noah was purchased by Lidet, they made a guy like Kiyomiya as the golden boy, the guy who's going to make Noah be what it's now. But Kenoh has always been opinion saying, nope, he can't be that guy. And that's how the whole story began. So we'll see what happens until then. Our main event is the GHC Junior Heavyweight Tag Team titles. Pretty good match, not gonna lie. I mean, we have GLG, Tadasuke and Yohei taking on Isami Kodaka and Yuko Fujimoto. Hold on, Yuko Miyamoto. I thought this match was pretty good. Now, you would have assumed, hopefully, there's going to be a new tag team champions. No, it did not go. It was a drop salt by Yohei onto Miyamoto in order to retain the belts. But however, we'll see what happens until then with these guys. So I think that's pretty much it for all the reviews. I believe it's time for our news updates. Well, welcome to our news updates. So let's begin with updates on the promotions themselves. Let's begin with GCW. As you know, in 5th of May, we have Gringo Locos, The World on Lucha. Here's what we know about it. 2 matches have been announced. We have Masha Slamovich taking on Dulce Tormenta. Then we have Pimpinella versus Effie. But we do know that Commander, Gringo Loco, Matt Cardona, Galeno de Mal, Aramis, and plus more will be making their appearance. I don't know who else will be appearing, but we just gotta wait and see. As you know, later on June 1st, we have the Tournament of Survival 9. The 5th entrance is coming from DDT, Shumna Katsumata. That's going to be interesting to watch. We then, of course, 2 events have been announced for the return into a specific city. On June 14th, they return to Denver, Colorado. No name has been announced. And then, of course, on the 29th of June, they make their way back to Dallas. So we will see what happens until then. Now, MLW announced for the Azteca Lucha on May 11th, Villano III Jr. will be participating. Wrestling Revolvers, another Friday that will take place on May 17th. There's going to be a Staples and Skewards match between Alex Colon and the debut of Acticus Coger. West Coast Pro announced for the coast, Powerhouse Hobbs will be in action to take on Adam Thornstrom, so that's going to be interesting to hear. Then, of course, a new show has been announced later on June 10th, by none other than El Desperado, calling it Despe Invitaciones, which means Desperado's Invitational. So I can't wait to see how that's going to roll up. And then finally, as you know, I mentioned on the previous news update, there's going to be a collaboration between West Coast Pro, Deadlock Pro Wrestling, and Prestige Wrestling. Well, it's just been announced for their upcoming first show together on July 20th. They're calling Untouchable. So this will take place in San Francisco. So this is going to be a lot of fun to watch. Now, for our developments, Matt Hardy has been reported by Fightful Select that he is no longer with AEW, so he's a free agent. There was talks that they wanted him to remain with AEW, but he chose not to resign, which is understandable. But more information will come out about him in a later time, so we'll see what happens. Our one of our favorite Yoshi wrestlers, Joan Kyona, has been announced on her X account that this spring she has joined a local fire brigade. We don't know if this is more like, okay, she's doing this part time or just something on the side. That is still remain to be seen. I mean, many of us would like to see her return to the ring, but we'll see. We know she's been having issues with her knee. We just hope she does her best. Fightful Select reports that William Regal played a key role in bringing Giulia into the fold with WWE. Now, it's not the first time that, of course, William Regal brought in a Japanese talent. He did that with Saray, or as we know her in Japan, Suri. So, makes perfect sense. Now, more from Fightful Select, it was been told that in WWE they're deciding to move away from sports entertainment and go into pro wrestling, which is a good thing. I think many people who are sick and tired of the sports entertainment, it needs to stop. So it's gonna. Now, more on Kaito and Kiyomiya's recent drama. This is what they put out. Kenoh goes out. The reason you never grow up is because you're always babysitting this young lion. Kiyomiya is like, this is so annoying. It will end forever on April 11th in Korakuen Hall. So basically, Kenoh once again continues to push his button. So it's gonna be fun. Um, Linda McMahon, this was reported by PW Insider that she was spotted right after WrestleMania at her hotel. We did not know that she was going to be there. I mean, this is going to be interesting. As you know, her son-in-law, Paul Levinsky, is now running the show, so I'm sure she was there to show support. But it turns out that more Evil from New Japan was spotted at WrestleMania. It wouldn't make sense. Don't know what's the thing. Now, as you know, for any American fans, if you're big fans of Tam Nakano, me myself, I'm one of them. As you know, she was here for Ring of Honor, and then the Stardom show, and of course the Kitsu Women's Wrestling. No, wait a minute, the Spark Yoshi Perus of America show. She did tweeted this that I will be back soon with the Cosmic Angels. So it looks like plans have been made for her to come back, but not alone. I mean, she did state it during in post-match comments that she would like to bring the Cosmic Angels, and I said, why not? I've seen fans on the X account back then that they want to see them, so it's gonna be fun. Now, Mirai, as you know, made the drastic choice to leave Stardom, but the real question is why? And this is what she posted out during an interview with Tokyo Sports. I think after a certain period of time, I would love to quickly move on to another job. Originally, I had no intention of staying active for a long time. That's why I decided to challenge myself to do what I what so that I don't have any regrets in pro wrestling life. If you ask me, have you done it all with Stardom? I would think I haven't won the red belt. I feel like I have worked hard because I'm leaving the place I feel safe. So basically, she wants to grow. I mean, she probably will never get another opportunity. It's like sounds like she is maybe considering retiring. I don't know, but we'll stick close to this, and I think that's pretty much it. What we have for all of our news updates and of course our reviews. So let's just call it a day. Well, I hope everybody enjoys this episode. Coming up, we have Tuesday Wrestling. As you know, we have of course NXT. We're gonna see what happened right after Stand and Deliver as our Czar remain the champions. We have a brand new NXT Women's Champion, and so on and so on. What's gonna happen? So I can't wait to see what the aftermath is gonna be. I haven't decided yet what I'm going to be reviewing. I know I'm behind on the collective. Of course, I got the Choco Pro events and plenty of other things. So we'll see what happens. But for right now, I think we'll just end things right here. And I will say this, and I will see you guys on the next DWZ time, same DWZ channel. I must bid all of you adieu. So goodbye. Mwah, and have a nice day. Bang.